The Minecraft Create mod looks amazing, but it can be a little bit intimidating at first. I'm going to show you what you need to know to gain the confidence to start designing your own amazing creations in this amazing mod. We're going to cover how to power your Create devices, how gears, belts, and gearboxes work, what resources you'll need, basic machines to process those materials, how Minecart contraptions work, the basics of trains, and a few other things along the way. So let's get started. Let's learn about rotational generators and stress units. So right here we have the hand crank. The hand crank, well, you can crank it but with your hand. Let's go ahead and take the hand crank and apply it to this deployer. Then we'll right click with an open hand and we can see the deployer activate. And it plants and picks back up this little flower from the flower pot. Here we have a Create sticky mechanical piston, and it's attached to this little door that I created. So let's go ahead and put a hand crank on here and get our open hand and see how this works. So it doesn't seem to be doing anything. That's interesting. If you hold down Shift and then hold down right click, it'll go the opposite direction. Problem with the hand crank is it's not very powerful and you have to right click in order for the thing to work, so it's not good for automation. The next generator is the small water wheel and its bigger brother, the large water wheel. A lot of people really love these water wheels, but I have a really hard time with them because they cause a lot of lag on my machine right now. If they're not causing lag for you, they can be very, very useful. You can take planks and actually recolor them, so they're very aesthetically pleasing as well. That one is now dark oak. We can also color this one birch. In order to use the water wheel, again, you're going to connect it to that shape right there on this block. This right here is a mechanical saw, and we're going to see if it can cut down this cherry tree. Let's place it in. You have to have one of its sides touching flowing water. So I have a bucket right here, and we can put the flowing water in, and it starts to turn. Both types of water wheels can also be placed on their sides in the flowing water, so you can do it this way, like that. The next rotational generator is the windmill bearing. This thing does nothing by itself, but combined with sails, sail frames, or wool can be very powerful. Let's take a look at how this is constructed. Right now I have just a block on here. Any block will work for this. And then I have some sails like this. Now this doesn't really look like a traditional windmill like that thing does, but this will actually work. The nice thing about sail frames is we do not have to use super glue. I'll talk about super glue in a minute. Let's right click this and see what happens. The nice thing about the windmill block is you can make some things that don't really look like windmills but actually work as windmills. Here's an example. I have some wool blocks here which are part of the windmill set of things. We have some harvesters here, we have a potted plant, a door, and a seat. If I put all this together, it will in fact make a windmill. If I right click on this right now, what's going to happen is it's going to say it's not able to assemble. Now here's the problem. This does not know that these blocks are supposed to be attached to each other. So we have to use something called super glue to make this happen. So I have super glue in my hand, and once you hold it in your hand, you have to right click to set the first point, and you kind of see I got a little bit of slime there. That tells me, okay, if I move, then I'm going to get this box. And this box shows me all of the different things that are going to be glued together. So I can go and right click again once I have the box where I want it, and that's going to glue all of those things together. Now, I didn't glue the chest on there because it wasn't part of the box, so I can actually grab the chest with a second super glue. So right click the chest and glue it over here, and now that's going to actually do like a compound glue, so it's going to glue this to this. And also the windmill bearing is sticky, so I believe that this will work if I right click it now. Here we go. And there we go. Now it's going the wrong way, so I need to stop it. And what I can do is I can right click, hold down, and it's going to switch the direction. This little GUI is really confusing because as soon as you right click, it's already switched to the opposite direction. So I'm going to climb in the seat and let's see if we can harvest some wheat. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm, now what's kind of cool is you can actually access the chest while this thing is moving. That's a new feature they added it fairly recently. Here's a little bit better looking windmill. This is all attached together with super glue, and you can tell that because if you hold the super glue in your hand, then you can see where your outlines are for the glue. In the back here, I have the windmill bearing attached. This one here I put sideways. So let's take a look. If we right click it, the whole thing spins. Now is as good a time as any to start talking about stress units. Down below here, what I have is I have a few deep slate diamond ores. We've got some drills here from Create, and these drills should mine the ores. I also have encased chain drives, which are powering these drills, a shaft, a speed controller, and some other stuff here, some shafts and some cogs. Now, when I place this cog wheel right here, it's going to turn this rotational power 90 degrees. It's going to power this whole mess here, turn 90 degrees again, and hopefully break our iron diamond ore and mine it for us. But watch what happens. In order to see what's going on, we need to look at the stressometer, the speedometer, and engineer's goggles. I'm going to go ahead and put on the goggles. If I look at this right here, it says generator stats, kinetic stress capacity, 3072 SU, and that stands for stress units. Then if I go down here and I look at these drills, it says 1024 stress units at current speed. 1000, another 1000, another 1000, and another 1000 there. That means I have like over 4000 here, but my generator is only producing 3000. That's why it's saying overstressed. There's a couple things you can do. You can either make this output more stress units, or you can reduce the amount of stress units you have by reducing the number of drills we have. I don't want to do that though. The third thing we can do is reduce the speed. Let's break this so you can see it. If I take this speed and I'm going to turn it down quite a bit. So let's right click this. Let's turn it down to 64. Put our cogwheel on here. And now, the drills are activated. It's working. Yay. And you'll also notice, not just that I mined some diamonds, but that our stress units are now at 256 each. That is because they are going slower. So basically stress units work like this. The faster something is running, the more stressful it is. The slower it's running, the less stressful it is. Each block kind of has its base stress units, like drills are usually more than deployers and stuff like that. But essentially that's how it works. Let's take a look at the speedometer. Okay, so this is telling me it's slow, but it's also telling me 6 RPM. So this machine is going at 6 RPM. If I break that and put a stressometer on here, it will tell me I have low stress. It tells me I have 2048 is being used out of a total capacity of 3072. So if your machines are not working and you think they're overstressed or something, you can always use these stressometers and the speedometer to see what's going on. Handy little tools. We can increase the SUs of a windmill by adding more of the sail type blocks. Okay, there we go. Now the stress capacity is at 4096 units and our speed has increased to 8 RPM. This lovely little contraption is a steam engine. These produce the highest amount of stress units possible in Create, but they are a little bit difficult to get going. In order to make a steam engine, you need the following things. You're going to need a mechanical pump, you're going to need a fluid pipe, obviously some water, you're going to need a heat source, I'm just using campfires for now, a fluid tank, a steam engine, and shafts. Let me unbuild this one. There we go. To create one of these, what you need to do is you need to take a fluid tank and place it down somewhere. There we go. You also need to put a pump, a mechanical pump, going into the fluid tank. You also need to hook that mechanical pump up to water sources using pipes. But we have one small problem. It's still not going to work. And the reason is because the minimum number of these fluid tanks that you can have is 4. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to stack 3 more on top. 1, 2, and 3. So now I have 4 fluid tanks. Now we need to take the steam engine itself and stick it on top. When you first place the steam engine, it looks like this. You have to grab a shaft and place it on top of the steam engine. It took me like a long time to figure that out. And whichever way you're looking is the direction of the shaft. So like that. So now we can see we have the full engine, the little arm thingy here. The last thing we need here is heat. I'm going to just use campfires. This is the very basic type of heat. We have a campfire, but we have a little problem. The water is not actually being pumped in because this is not active. There's several ways to power these. I like to power them with a secondary source. I'm going to grab this creative motor, and we now have water being pumped in. So let's take a look at our steam engine. Do you see how the size is green and the heat is green, but the water's red? Water has to be flowing into this at a certain speed. I'm not sure what the minimum speed is, but if I turn this up to 32, I know it's going to work. So I'm going to right click here. So now I'm going to crank it up to 32. There we go. And now that is spinning faster. And you'll notice that now our water is completely full, and you might also hear a little hissing sound, and that little hissing sound is the motor is now operating. So essentially you have to make sure all of these things, size, water, and heat, are all green. Great, our steam engine is working, and I have it connected up to this rope pulley. Now this rope pulley is supposed to be lowering these blocks, but it's not. So one thing that we can do is, just like on the windmill bearing, we can change the direction of this thing by going to this little icon right here, and we're going to right click it, and we are going to make it go the opposite direction. There we go. And now our rope pulley is descending just like we wanted. However, what if I wanted to go back up again? Well, wouldn't I have to come back here and click this and change it back the other direction? That would be irritating, but no, we don't have to do that. We can use this thing called a gear shift. So if we take the gear shift and we break this shaft, we put it in line here, then, well, nothing happens, because when the gear shift is in place, it acts just like a shaft until it receives a redstone signal. I happen to have a lever on me. Let's place the lever and give this gear shift a redstone power. And there it goes, and now when it's powered, it will go the opposite direction of its input, and now we have a working little rope pulley thing. We can go forward, backward, forward, and backward. And there's another heat source that you need to know about, and that is the blaze burner. Basically, you go out into the nether and you catch a blaze in one of these blaze burner cage thingies, and you can place it underneath this steam engine. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to break the campfire and place in the blaze burner, and there he is. But it looks like really nothing has happened. I'm also going to go ahead and attach a speedometer up here just so you can see this. So we have 16 miles per hour there, and then our stress is 2048. So a blaze just by itself is basically the same as a campfire. So what's the point of these things? Well, if I power it and give him some coal, he gets all fired up. And you'll notice that now my stress units went to 16,000 and the speed is now at 64. We can also feed our blaze a blaze cake, and he will actually put out even more heat, but we have a problem. The size of our boiler isn't big enough to make use of it, neither is the water. So as you get more heat, they need you more water and possibly a bigger boiler, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to tell you much more about these in this video. I'll make a separate video that explains a little bit more how to make more advanced steam engines. The very last rotational generator is this little thing. It's called a copper valve handle, and you can right click it, but you can't hold down right click. And so it will turn just like one time. You can also set how much it turns. So right now I have it set up to 180 degrees. I have a couple blocks glued together here. And so when I click this, it's going to turn 180 degrees. Now let's learn about rotational speed and direction. Okay, I have a little thing set up here. We have a windmill. These are actually using the sail frames. Over here, I have a millstone. Let's take a look at how to get the power from this windmill over to this millstone. One way to do this is to use these small cogwheel. So these are small cogwheels. So one thing we could do is we could come from here and we could drag these, or not drag them, but we can place them over like this to get to our millstone. We're not quite there yet, so I can place one there. And then now when I right click on our bearing, it's going to turn the millstone. There's another option we could use. We could use some large cogwheels. So large cogwheels are kind of strange. You can connect them to like that, but you cannot connect them sideways. So if I place them on the ground here, see, they don't connect if you're placing them sideways, and they're also like a block apart, but you can't connect them diagonally either. The only way to connect a cogwheel to another large cogwheel is to go ahead and put them at 90 degrees to each other. I showed you this earlier. Just like that. Okay, so we can bring that power over this way by placing this cogwheel like that. And you can actually place them inside of blocks because the only block that counts actually is the center of it. So I could take and like put blocks all around this thing like that, and it's still going to work. Let me show you. I'll right click our windmill and you can see it is turning. Now we can take our shaft and we can place it, not there, but there. And you see this little arrow? That means if I keep clicking, it'll just keep placing it like that infinitely. Okay, so now our shaft is placed, and here we go. Our rotation is still going the wrong direction, because if I place like a little cogwheel here, well, it's obviously not going to connect to that guy. I can actually place little cogwheels this way, but even if I do that, you'll notice that, well, it's not, you know, connecting. That one's turning, but it's not turning because I have to have the cogwheel going flat. So how do I get back to flat? One way I can do it is I can take my large cogwheel and I can place it there, and then I can place another 190 degrees to it, and there we go. But still not connected. So maybe I can take another small cogwheel and place it there diagonally, because a large cogwheel can connect to a small cogwheel diagonally. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm going to place it right there. It's still not connected. So now we can place one more cogwheel over here. There's something else I want you to notice here. I'm going to get rid of this, and this. I'm going to put a speedometer on this cog and on that cog. This rotation says slow, 2 RPMs. This one says slow, 4 RPMs. That's interesting. When you place a small cogwheel that is powered by a large cogwheel, the small one is actually going to go twice as fast as this one. This is known as a gear ratio, or gearing up. Additionally, if I was to take a small cogwheel and have it be the source of power, I can place a large cogwheel on it, and now our large cogwheel is going half the speed of the small one. You'll see that our small cogwheel is going 2 RPM and 1 RPM here. So basically the ratio goes like this. It's 2 to 1, and if you have a small cogwheel driving a large cogwheel, you have cut your speed in half. If you have a large cogwheel driving a small cogwheel, you will double your speed. So that's a way to control speed without using a speed controller, which are a little expensive. We can then repeat this by attaching another large cogwheel to the small cogwheel like that, and then put another small cogwheel. And then we can repeat that again by taking a large cogwheel and attaching it to a small cogwheel like this, and it's faster again. And then we can take a large cogwheel and connect it to a small cogwheel and connect it like that. And then we can do it again and take a large cogwheel and put a small cogwheel, and then we can take a large cogwheel and put a small cogwheel, and then we can take a large cogwheel and put a small cogwheel, and we're doubling our speed every time, and eventually what's going to happen is that. Do you see that? I can no longer place a cogwheel. And why is that? Well, remember I told you the maximum speed was 256? This is now running at 256, so I cannot place anything that's going to make it go any faster. It'll just break. If you don't want to gear things at weird, funky angles, there's another way to do it. If I come back to my original 2 cogwheels here and I put one here, if I try to put a small one here and go sort of more linearly, it's going to break. Now what's going on here? Well, the problem is that this gear is turning to the right, but when I try to place this small gear, it's going to try to go to the left, and the gear can't go to the right and the left at the same time. That kind of makes sense. So what we need to do is just put a spacer shaft in between, and then we can do this in a linear fashion, like this, and then like this, and so on and so forth. The other thing that's really helpful to know about these is that whenever you connect a cog to another cog, either diagonally or right next to each other like this, each cog goes the opposite direction from the cog that it's attached to. So if you see, this one is actually turning to the left, but this one's turning to the right, which is making this one turn to the left and the next one turning to the right. So now we have to deal with some directional issues, and there's a few ways to do that. Number one, you can just put the little cogs until you figure out a way to make it go the right direction, or we can use some direction changing stuff. The first one that will change directions for you is the gearbox. If you take a gearbox and put it in line with a shaft, it'll actually switch directions from this side to the other side. Now additionally, we could come off this way and this way to power things, so it's a super handy little device. Vertical gearboxes do exactly the same thing, except you can move power vertically, like that, and also below it. Like for example, we could use a vertical gearbox underneath here instead of those 2 large cogwheels. Then if we extend this out towards our piston, there we go, like that. But now we have to move upwards, so there's a couple ways to do that. You can use cogwheels and place them like this. That will also reverse the direction. If you don't want to reverse the direction, you can use an encased chain drive, like this. Encased chain drives take the direction that it's going and then just repeats it. So we could go this way, like this, but you can't go 90 degrees with it, unfortunately. You can also place them horizontally if you want, like this, but you can't do like both at the same time. So we have to break those if we want to go horizontally. Another way to do the same thing as the chain drive is by using belts. Typically we think of these belts as being able to move items, but they can also transfer power vertically, horizontally, or even diagonally if you're going at a straight 45-degree angle. Now let's learn about resources and basic machines. The first resource you want to mine and create is zinc ore. The other one is andesite. When you combine zinc nuggets and andesite, you get andesite alloy. If you have andesite alloy, you can strip some logs and make andesite casings. You will also need copper, because copper ingots combined with zinc ingots will make brass ingots, and this is important for later on in the game. You'll also need a good amount of iron ingots, redstone dust, nether quartz, and dried kelp. The first machine you're going to want to build is something like this, a mechanical press. I'm going to take some iron ingots and put them in this chest. As the ingots pass underneath the press, it turns them into iron sheets. These sheets are going to be used to make mixers and drills and fans and some other things that you're going to need later. To build this machine, I would take a block of whatever. This is polished cut diorite from Create. Then you're going to go ahead and take a shaft and place it there, and then take a belt and stretch it between them by right-clicking a shaft, moving to the other shaft. If you see this sort of green particles, then you know you can place the belt. If you see red or magenta particles, you can't place it. So there we go. Then place another shaft in the middle like this. Then you're going to take 2 chests, put one there, and then take these andesite funnels. These are made from some andesite alloy and some of that dried kelp. Then you're going to go ahead and just right-click the chest and right-click this chest. You don't have to hold shift. Then you're going to go ahead and take the press and just right-click right in the middle, and it'll place the press exactly where you want it. Then take around the back a shaft, place it in the middle, place it one on the press there like that. Connect these vertically with another belt, and then you can power it anywhere you want and it will work. Now I powered mine back here on this right here. I'm just going to use a creative motor so I don't have to build an entire windmill system or use a water wheel, and there you go. This next machine is optional. You don't really need it to progress in the mod. Its main function is to grind wheat into flour, and then you can wash that and make dough, and then you can bake the dough in a furnace to make bread. So all I have here is a chest, a hopper, a millstone, another hopper, and another chest, and then if you just power this thing on the side, if you use a large cogwheel to power it, it'll go a little bit faster, so these will actually gear up right here. So it's basically a large cogwheel and a small cogwheel. Anytime you see this, it's going to continue to do that same gear ratio thing that we learned earlier. Once you're able to make plates, you can build this thing. This is a smelter. The smelter works by blowing air through lava to then smelt stuff. So here I have some raw iron. If I put it in, you'll see it's going to start coming out of this funnel. And as it passes under the lava, and you can see some particles under there, it's going to turn into iron ingots. That's right, you don't have to put stuff in furnaces anymore. We're going to start off the same way we built our press system. We're going to plant a block right there and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks over. Put another one there, and then we're going to put a chest on top of each one of these. Place a shaft and another shaft and stretch a belt in between them, just like that. Then go ahead and put 3 blocks in the middle on top of this belt. These are going to be temporary. Put your andesite funnels, one on this chest and one on that chest. I prefer to use these framed glass trapdoors from Create because then you can see through them much better. You can put whatever trapdoors in the back because you won't be able to see them anyway. There they are. Then go ahead and place these encased fans on the top. You have to shift click to place them face down, or you can use a wrench to rotate them. Place a shaft on top of each one of those. And we can power them all at once with a belt. But before we do that, I'm going to put one more shaft vertically right there like that. Actually 2 shafts above this funnel right here. And then you're going to connect all of these with a belt like that. Then in the back, place a vertical gearbox right there. And then you can place a shaft going up, so 2 of them actually, and then connect these 2 with another belt. I powered mine down here with a creative motor, like this. Now, one thing that's important to do on this is to make sure that it's going at a slow enough speed so that your lava can cook the ingot or whatever you put in there. So, mine is running at 8 RPM. So I'm going to turn this motor down to 8 RPM. There it is. But you might have to play with the gears to get it just right. Another thing you can do is if you can't get it to go slow enough, or you want it to go faster, you can extend this part right here and make a longer belt and put more lava in the middle. But that means you're going to have more of these. The very last step, for obvious reasons, is to break these blocks here and then just place a lava bucket right there. Try not to burn yourself. Be careful with the lava, please. There we go. So this is a washing station or washer. It's built exactly the same way we just built our smelter, except instead of lava, you place water in there. Other than that, this is exactly the same as that. So what does the washing station do? In Create, you can wash certain items, and when you wash them, it will process them into certain other items. For example, gravel is a very interesting one, because you can wash gravel and get flint. However, every now and then, you will get an iron nugget. See? So, Mr. Blockhead, are you saying that if I wash gravel, I will get an iron nugget? That's right. Create's awesome. The next really essential machine that's going to give you a big step up is right in front of me. This is a mixer. The mixer itself is this thing, but you also need to use a basin. When you power the mixer, it has to be going at least 15 RPM, so you'll have to play with the gears to get it going fast enough. So what does this mixer do, you ask? Well, let me show you. It's actually a crafting table, and what it can craft is it can craft anything that has a shapeless recipe. Another important function of the mixer is you can make andesite alloys at a better rate. If you just throw things into the mixing bowl here, into the basin, it should start to operate. When it's all done mixing, or even before, I can right-click the basin and it will give me all the things that are in there. Now, this thing also performs another important function, but we need to upgrade it. What you need to do is place a blaze burner underneath it. How do you get a blaze burner? Well, you have to start with an empty blaze burner cage thing. Then you go into the nether and you're going to catch yourself a blaze. All you have to do is walk up to the blaze, right-click it, and run away as fast as possible. While you're there, it's a good idea to get a few of these, as many as you can stand to get before you die. If you go quickly, you can do this fairly early game. Feed him anything that will burn, like a furnace, so coal or lava or any of that sort of thing. Then you can put in a zinc ingot. I'm just going to do 4 of them. And a copper ingot. Those will mix together, and eventually, magically, you will get brass. And brass is used in pretty much every more advanced Create machine. If you don't like throwing things into basins and then right-clicking them to get them out, you can build one of these. This is a mechanical mixer thingy-mabob. To build it, you can go ahead and start with a couple of blocks, just like this, right there and right there, and then take your shaft and place one there and there and there and there, and then tie those together with belts, just like this. There we go. It's okay that this thing is going to have this little like funnel looking thing sticking out of it. That's normal. Then go ahead and put a chest there, and then take your andesite funnel, put one there, and put one here, and then put one there. Just be careful not to put it like in this thing. That's a filter. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then one there, like that. This thing right here is this little chute. That means the items are going to come out of here. So you could put like a hopper at the end of this, or maybe put another funnel with a chest. Let's do that. A funnel and a chest right there. There we go. Like this and like that. I didn't put it on that one because it doesn't look nice, but that's what you could do. And then what you need to do is tie all these together, which is a little bit of a pain on these because we need this one to go the opposite of that one and then this to come out this way. So that means that we need a bunch of gearboxes. So what you're going to do is you're going to put one vertical gearbox like that, 2 vertical gearboxes like this. You're going to put a shaft going up to our original cog that we had up there, and then you need a shaft here to go to another cog like that. At least that kind of looks symmetrical. And then over here in the front, you're going to put 2 normal gearboxes there and there, and then a shaft in between those right there, like that. Then you can go ahead and power this thing on any of these, but make sure it's going in the right direction. And the right direction is these need to be going into the basin, so the 2 left and right, and then this one needs to be coming out, and then it's going the right direction. And then of course you can kind of sneak in here and power your blaze burner, and the thing should be working just fine. The next thing you're going to want to make is electron tubes. The electron tube is needed to make brass funnels, brass tunnels, and mechanical crafters. In order to craft this, you're going to need redstone dust and quartz, which you're going to put into a crafting recipe in a crafting table, or you can actually use the mixer, and that's going to give you rose quartz. Once you get rose quartz, in order to get polished rose quartz, you need to use something called sandpaper. You can make that in a mixer or a crafting table with 1 piece of sand and 1 piece of paper. Then you're going to do something a little strange. In one hand, you're going to put the rose quartz, and in the other hand, you're going to put the sandpaper. So one of these has to be in your offhand. And then what you do is you right-click, and you basically rub them together and get the rose quartz. Then if you combine the rose quartz with an iron sheet, you will get an electron tube. You're going to need to make at least 21 of them because you need to make this thing. This thing is actually not one thing, but it's 21 things all put together. And those things are mechanical crafters. Mechanical crafters are very cool. You can craft all sorts of things with them once they're powered. But the thing that we need to craft right now is grinding wheels. All right, once you get this thing all built, then what you need to do is you need to put any type of natural stone in the center. So like andesite, diorite, granite, deep slate, tuff, that sort of thing. And planks here, has to be planks, not regular wood. And then these andesite alloys all the way around. Whoops, I missed one. Around the edges like this. There we go. Now, you need to make sure that these are all sort of connected in like a logical way. So let me show you what I mean. These are like pointed down into these, and then we're just gonna right click with our wrench to get that thing to move around. And then let's go here so that that's gonna come down. All right, that's looking pretty good. So what you don't want is like this. Well, let's just make all of these go down like this. And you're gonna see why this is important in a minute. But that looks good. So see how it's coming down and then over and then over, and then everything's gonna move down. Anyway, let's go ahead and power it and you'll see kind of how this works. All right, we're gonna give this whole system some power. I'm just gonna put it back here. And here we go. It's gonna do this. It's very exciting. And that actually makes 2 crushing wheels, which is exactly the number that we need for the next machine. This next machine is a crusher. So what we have here is we have 2 crushing wheels like this. You can place these vertically, the crushing wheels like that, but I've found playing this mod for a while that having them like sideways like this horizontally is actually simpler. So what this machine does is it, well, crushes things. Just be careful. Do not go in between the crushing wheels if you're in creative or survival mode. They will crush you and you'll die and you can't really get out. What you got to do is you got to put something that is crushable in here. Like for example, maybe some iron ore. Let's throw that in here and you'll see our iron ore is going here and it's going into the crushing wheels and it's getting crushed. And then out the other side, you get crushed, whatever the thing is, raw iron and XP. This is super handy because now we have this crushed stuff, the crushed iron ore, so we can take that back over to our lovely washing station, and then we can go ahead and put the crushed raw iron in here, and it's going to give us the nuggets and a bonus material. And I forgot what the bonus material is for this. I think it's redstone. Yeah, it is redstone. So you get some extra stuff, the redstone here, and then you also will get iron nuggets. The machine behind me makes precision mechanisms. Precision mechanisms are used in more advanced create things like that speed controller I showed you earlier, and a few other things that are super cool. So you're going to want to know how to make these. The way that it works is it takes gold sheets and outputs them, and then in turn you have to put a cogwheel, a large cogwheel, and then an iron nugget, and they have to be made with deployers just like this. And you have to go through this process 5 times. So in other words, the gold sheet has to go through this process and actually go around this loop 5 times. So the first time it will come into this chest, and then it will come back out of here as an incomplete mechanism, go back into this funnel, go into this chest as an incomplete mechanism. You can see a bunch of them in there, and then it'll come back out again and go around again and again and again until finally it becomes either a precision mechanism or there's a 20% chance that it will fail and give you just a little bit of scrap in return. Either a cog or some andesite alloy, or maybe a little bit of the golden sheet back or something like that, which is why this is here. And I'm going to explain now how these funnels work. The brass funnel allows you to filter things, which means that coming out of this particular chest, the only thing that can come through this filter is a finished precision mechanism. Precision mechanisms don't always work. Not always. And when they don't work, you get some of the materials back. That's what this cog is doing here. Remember, it's one of the materials from there? So it has like an 80% chance for the precision mechanism to work. So what we need to do is make sure that it can filter out other stuff. Well, that leads us to filters. There's two different types of filters. There's the list filter and also this one, which is the attribute filter. If I right-click my list filter, I can open it up and I can see, well, what's in my list. So if I want to filter a list out of this chest, what I can do is I can actually grab my precision mechanism, because that's one thing we want to come out. All right, we also want this, the iron nugget, or the gold sheet. Here we are. So what I can do then is I can take my list filter and I can put all of these into the list filter. Now, it doesn't actually consume the item, like you're not actually putting the item in there, but you have to have it in survival mode to click on here. Actually, I think you can grab it just from JEI if you have JEI installed, that you can grab it right from there sometimes. Anyways, it really depends on like how things are set up on your mod pack and on your server that you're playing on. But we can make a list, so this will allow any of these items through. Now this is called an allow list. We can also make what's called a deny list. So in other words, none of these will get through. Next, let's talk about contraptions and making stuff move. Let's look at making a simple tree farm. So one way to do the tree farm is by starting out with some rotational power 2 blocks down. This would be a great place to use a water wheel sideways. But as water wheels lag my game, I'm not going to use that. Go ahead and put in a mechanical bearing. And next what we're going to do is we're going to use one of these things called a linear chassis. Now linear chassis are kind of cool because I can put these on here, and as long as they're all facing the same direction, this thing is going to rotate. Oh, whoa, it almost hit me. Whoa, whoa, calm down. Then we're going to go ahead and put some mechanical saws on this thing, just like this. Let's do 5. That's good. Okay. Now, there's something interesting. You'd think that we would have to power each and every one of these, but because these are already on a moving contraption, they will be powered by default, which means that I don't have to power them with shafts and gears and all that stuff. These are just going to get powered because they're on a contraption. Before we go, we have to glue this together though. Let's take a look. To demonstrate that these are moving, let's plant a sapling and wait for it to grow. There we go. And as you can see, it is cutting down the tree. Look at that. So that's pretty cool, but if we cut down all the trees, then we're gonna have to plant them all back by hand. That's no good. We can use a deployer to fix this problem. I'm gonna put my deployer in a kind of a strange place. Right there. Then I'm gonna put in its hand a sapling. Come on. There we go. Okay. Now there's a sapling in its hand. That means that it is going to plant these saplings. And all of these machines, or at least the deployers, have an internal inventory. I think it's 1 full stack. So I actually placed a full stack of saplings in there. But we kind of don't care about that, and I'll show you why in a little while. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this thing so that it's facing forwards. Now, the reason I'm facing it forwards, it seems like this wouldn't work, but it will actually place things through 1 block and place the sapling out in front of the saw. Now we need to go ahead and put a filter on this deployer of the sapling. And the reason we want to do that is because later, when we cut down the trees, we don't want it deploying sticks or oak logs. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a chest on this thing, like this. Just going to put it right there. As long as it has some type of an inventory on it, it's going to actually pick up all of the stuff and put it in the inventory. Before we actually turn it on, make sure that everything is glued together. So I need to glue this, and I need to glue on our chest, like this. There we go. Holy cow. There it goes. Look at it go. Look at it go. Okay. Cutting down the tree. Now, my chest looks black. I think it's because I have shaders on. Sometimes there's some visual glitches with Create, but we can still access the chest, as you can see. And look at that. It picked up all of the oak logs, it picked up all the saplings, and it picked up the apples and sticks. So we could access this thing as it goes around, but there's something even cooler we can do. Now, unfortunately, when you stop this design, it does break the saplings where it stopped. So next, what we're going to want is a inventory storage interface. These things are super cool. Will you stop that? Like, oh my goodness. Okay, let's rotate it. Here we go. Looks like that. And then one block away, so let's grab a random block, put it in the middle, and then we're going to go ahead and put the other one on this side. Can you just put it the right direction just one time? Having a wrench is super helpful. Okay, so they have to be a block away, and you'll see why in a little bit. Now, on the end of this inventory interface thingy, we have to put some type of a way to get stuff out of here. So this is kind of like an inventory of itself. So what we need to do is put something that's going to get the items out of there. And I highly recommend using a brass funnel if you have the access to it. And why do we want a brass funnel? Well, it's because I want to get out of this chest the logs, which were in there just a second ago. I want to get out of this chest the apples and the sticks. I do not want the saplings because those are supposed to get planted. So if I use a brass funnel, I can filter out the saplings. So we can get our filter, we can put a sapling in there and set it as deny list. So anything besides this will come out of the funnel. There we go. And then what we need to do is you could put a belt on here or something. I'm just going to do something really quick and simple, which is I'm just going to put another chest here, and then we're going to put a hopper going into that chest. Okay, we're almost all set. Just go ahead and make sure that you've super glued your portable store. Excuse me. Just go ahead and make sure you've super glued on your portable storage interface, and you're good to go. All right, look at that. It automatically connects. Now it's going to sit there until everything that was in there is out of there. And then we can see right here, we've got our logs going into this chest. Then we can take this and either just come to it and get our inventory or send it off somewhere else using belts and funnels and other Create stuff.
The next thing we're going to make is a minecart contraption. These contraptions are incredible. To make one, you need to put down a rail, and then on top of that, this thing called a cart assembler. Now, go ahead and extend the rail. Doesn't really matter. And you want some extended behind it too, like that. Then what you need to do is you need to be able to power this thing with redstone. I'm going to go like this and put a little lever just right there. Hello, pig. Then the way this works is if I push a minecart into it, it looks like it does nothing. So what we need to do is we're going to put some stuff on top of this to make a minecart contraption. I'm going to use these brass casings. Make sure whatever you're putting together is super glued. When we turn this on, what's going to happen is it's actually going to add these 3 blocks to the minecart. Watch this. Set our minecart down, give it a little push through the assembler, and off it goes. One really cool thing that you can do with this is you can pick it up with a wrench. So if I grab a wrench here, and I right-click the minecart, I've picked up the entire contraption. That means if I place it back down on rail, I get the entire contraption back. It's super handy for moving your contraptions. Yes, it will move a gigantic contraption doing that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off because this is pretty useless as a contraption, to be perfectly honest with you. And I want to rebuild it. So I want this off of this minecart. So as long as this is unpowered, I'm going to go ahead and give this a push, and it'll go back through our assembler, and it will disassemble the contraption, and now I can manipulate all of this stuff. I put several mechanical drills on here. I have a linear chassis right here just because I don't need a drill there, and why not? And then we have our minecart. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and I'm going to run it right into this little mountain right here. And unfortunately, the way I have this set up in this simple machine, I have to basically dig where I want this to go. So if I actually want it to mine out and break these blocks right here, I actually have to make it go through this mountain right here. So I'm just going to go in a ways just to show you this. This, it's getting dark. You guys can't see the footage. This is stupid, but I'm still going. There we go. Okay, that's far enough. If you go mining, you can mine a tunnel, and then you can come back to that tunnel and then lay rail on it, and then you can use one of these contraptions to do the rest of the mining for you. Let's go. All right. And it's coming closer. Look at that. We are now mining. This is an automatic mining machine. As you can see, this is going to be super helpful if you were to actually mine somewhere where there's some ores. You can access the chest on the back and grab the stuff out, or you could set up another one of those little portable storage interface thingamabobs. I usually just access the chest in the back, at least early game. There are much more advanced ones of these where you don't have to lay the rail first. It will lay the rail for you, but this will get you going. Let's learn about the basics of trains. In order to make a train, you need to have a train track. So I have some train track in my hand, and you can just place it like this. You can also right-click on an existing track and then move yourself and the thing, and you can kind of see it kind of previews like what the track is going to do. So you can make curves, and you can actually go up things like this where you can't curve. Anyway, there's some pretty cool stuff. That's a little bit more advanced. For now, we're just going to go straight on to about here, and we have some floating grass for some reason. And then I'm going to right click and do a curve. So to do a curve, you want to kind of go 90 degrees to yourself, and then just kind of walk around until it will let you. There we go. Once it turns yellow, that means that curve will work for your train. And so we're just going to go, we'll go like that. That's pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to do another curve like this, and it kind of went at me because it didn't like what I was trying to do. So if you go like this, it'll go turn to sharp. There we go, like that. And now we have kind of a little loop for our train track. So to make an actual train, you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need a train station. And what you do is you right-click the track with your train station. And also, like, the direction that thing is pointed is the direction that your train is going to go initially. So then I want it to go that way. So I'm just going to go ahead and right-click the track. And that says targeted selected track. And then you place it down where you want it. I'm going to put it there. But you can put it, I don't know how far away, but you can put it like, you wouldn't want it too far from your track anyway, so what's the difference? Anyways, now you're going to right click this thing, and it says track station, station is idle, and then there's a button here that says create new train. You're going to want to press this button. Now it says train assembly, no bogies, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so let me explain what that means. Basically, what we need to do is we need to take a train casing. I will tell you, these things are a little bit of a pain to make, but by having some of the basic machines that I've got set up for you, you should be able to figure out how to build it. It says to place the casing on this highlighted track. So you can kind of see that this track right here is now a little bit bluish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click there, and it's going to make a bogey. If I right click like off of there, it just places like this cool looking train casing. But if I right click there, it creates a bogey. I can create more bogeys if I want to, like that, if I wish. And then what you need to do is you need to build out your train. So you can use like literally any blocks to do this. I'm just going to use these brass blocks because they look kind of cool. And I'm just going to kind of build a little platform that we can do a little train on. Here we go. Like that. There we go. And then there's our train. Okay, so you can make it like much prettier. I'm just showing you how these work. Now, what you want to do is you want to come and you also want to place train controls. and you want to place them wherever you want to like control the train from. So I'm just going to stick mine right there in the front, but anywhere on the train is fine. And those will control your train. Without those, it's going to say this is not assembled. Now what you want to do is you want to take your super glue. Let me get rid of those. And you take your super glue and you want to glue all of this together. So don't forget this step, otherwise it's going to tell you your train does not have controls. And you're like, but I put the controls on there, just like Mr. Blockhead said. Yeah, you have to super glue them together. And now when I right click this assemble train button, I can click this and it says 2 bogies, so it knows that there's 2 bogies in my train. Bogies are like just the wheels. So this thing here is a bogie. And then when I click, it makes myself a little train. So now what you do is you jump on the train and you right click the controls and you are now controlling it. So just like you would walk, you can press the W key and you could go forwards. Yay! And now you have a train and it's running around the track. Whee! 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 Now, it says hold space to approach track station. You can see that on my screen above my little inventory bar. So if I hold space, it's going to stop back at the station. And you can put multiple stations as well. Now to get off your train, you just hold down shift or press shift and it will make it so that you're not controlling it anymore. That's the basics. There is a lot more to these trains, but that requires its own video because there's so much you can do with these trains. It's kind of bonkers. There's one more thing I want to share with you about Create Mod that it's just so awesome. In the menu, you can see that this is the normal sort of creative menu, but there's also other pages you can use like this. Right, so if you're in the creative menu, you can look at any of these create thingies. Like you could look, for example, at this mechanical mixer. And if I hold down W, like it says, it actually opens this little pondering window. And it actually tells you how to use it. It tells you where to put stuff. It tells you a little bit about it. A lot of the stuff in the Create mod will allow you to look at what it actually does. So we could do, let's pick something that maybe we haven't discussed. How about this spout right here? So if we look at the spout, which by the way, you do need to use the spout in order to make those train casings, you can see, oh, okay, so if I put lava in this tank and a pump and so on and so forth, and it tells you how to use the spout. And then also like up here on the left here, it'll tell you like, oh, fluid manipulators. I want to learn more about these things that it's talking about. So you can literally just click on that and be like, oh, what's an item drain? And hit W and it will show you what an item drain does. So it's very, very handy and very cool, especially if you're a visual learner like myself. You can go a little bit deeper and make your own creations with Create. So you can be creative with this Create mod in Create. Okay. Another really handy tip is you want to have another mod installed. It's super easy to install. So I highly recommend you have either just enough items, JEI, or roughly enough items, REI, installed. What you do is you can just click on one of these with REI, like for example that train casing, for example. Here's the train casing. And even it will tell you like these more complicated recipes like, oh, I have to take a brass casing and put it through a deployer and they'll give me a train casing, but I have to put a sturdy sheet in there. Okay, click on that. How do I make a sturdy sheet? Okay, what's this stuff? Powdered obsidian. How do I make that? Oh, I just crush up some obsidian and it gives me obsidian and powdered obsidian. That's kind of interesting. Okay, excellent. Now I know how to make that thing. And you can just go on from there. You can use it to make an elevator pulley, and you can click on like, okay, how do I make a brass casing again? Oh yeah, I have to right click on a thing. And it also has like some other tabs up here where you can see like there's different ways to make it. So there's manual item application like this. That's interesting. Does this one have that? Oh yeah, it might. It might. Yeah, you can right click a train casing manually with this sturdy sheet. But unfortunately you can't make these sturdy sheets manually, so we have to create a machine to do that. You are now a certified creator. This has been Mr. Blockhead. I hope you're having an amazing, awesome, beautiful day. And God bless.